for joining us. If you're watching on replay, we're going to just have a discussion about branding and financing and your future plans as you prepare for 2024, especially in the corporate space of branding and financing. So before we get started, I think we should probably do an introduction. I try to wait a little further in to do the introductions typically, but I think we're both new because it's our first time going live on each other's platforms. So let's introduce ourselves across the platforms. You want to go first, Lisa?
Sure. Hi, guys. I am Lisa Noble. I am the executive brand artisan, and I really help influential entrepreneurs who are the face of their brand and they're already a powerhouse in their industry. But what I do is I come and I help them to show up and show out with my Flaunt Your Brand formula, where we help them to really become visible, to show up to their clients, how they want to be perceived. We help them with all that, helping them with their website, their social media management, and their email marketing.
Awesome. So I'm Kellé, everyone. I'm a fractional CFO. I work with service-based providers, typically therapists, flat fee lawyers, and people in the corporate space to do business consulting and helping them to strategically systemize their business and elevate profitabilities without burnout. And we do this by taking on your day-to-day accounting and bookkeeping, and then providing you with some strategy and guidance in that area. Today, I think it's a little pivot though. If you typically follow Lisa and I, you'll probably see a little difference in this conversation because today we're going to speak to the corporate client. And in that business consulting space, how we serve our corporate clients, especially in Q4, as they begin to plan for the year ahead. So since that's the area of focus, I think we should probably start, Lisa, with if you give us an overarching definition of who your corporate client is, or if you want to just share your corporate background, so that way as people are watching this, they know, okay, she's done this before and who you serve in that space.
So I do have experience in the corporate world because I have a 9 to 5 investor, and I have worked on many teams helping clients or businesses, organizations to really hone in on who that client is and who they're going to serve, as well as their customer journey, because that's very important when you have other people working throughout your organization doing things, having like a brand style guide, knowing what the customer journey is, who the persona is, who we're speaking to, and what they're interested in, how our organization actually helps them. So I've had that experience as well as helping other organizations on my own as a executive brand artisan, myself and my team, to do the same thing for smaller businesses, and not just working for the company, but also being an advisor for the company.
Yeah, and the same with me. I actually transitioned full time into entrepreneurship about 3 years ago. Prior to that, I worked in top AmLaw 100 law firms in the DC area. Mm-hmm. And my last position, I was the chief administrative officer. Prior to that, I was in all finance and accounting roles, ranging from $7 million to $2 billion in revenue to oversee. So I really came from a large law firm space. Mm-hmm. And in that space, as you can imagine, there's a lot of streamlining you have to do, a lot of systems. Right. So with that, I often do get requests to do consulting that looks very different than what my firm does from a day-to-day basis. It's more mm-hmm. going into the teams, helping them to systemize and figure out where their holes are and to become more productive in what they do. Mm-hmm. So that's the overview of me. I think I want to start with, if you could tell us the difference, Lisa, between branding and marketing, because I always try to use the words interchangeably, and I'm not sure if that's even correct.
Right. So branding is actually creating and developing the elements and the systems, the assets that you're going to use to become more visible, to create brand awareness. That would be your website. That would be the actual brand, the logo, the tagline, creating the personas, having this data and information to draw on, because it's a lot of research, market research, and competitive research that happens in order to help you to create this brand that um, becomes more, it becomes a more awareness, more of an awareness out in the internet streets or any other publications that that the company would get involved with. Now, the marketing is the vehicle that helps you to really become more visible. That's the social media, that's the campaigns, that's the photo shoots that come out, and the print work as well. That is marketing more so. It's the vehicle in order for you to become more visible.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for that definition, because I think that'll help the corporate clients to know how we could potentially partner and serve them in that space. So, in the space of branding in Q4, what should they be looking at? What should they be doing? Because I think a lot of times, I know for me, I thought, first of all, I didn't even invest in my brand until this year 3.
And it's beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, it was just a blessing that I did well out of the door. So I didn't have to really hone in and do a whole lot. I picked 2 colors, like probably many people do. I picked 2 colors I thought looked nice together initially. And I was like, here you go. And I had a friend that made my logo. And that was it for the first 3 years, pretty much.
Yeah, how it happens.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yep.
this year I did the whole rebrand. I did a rebrand, which for me was really a branding because I never did a brand, but I guess I built one over the
That's normal. That's normal. Yep.
So with that, I know I had this perception that branding was like a one-time thing, right? Like I come up with a logo, I come up with some colors, that's my brand. I don't really need to revisit it per se. So from a corporate space, I feel like just knowing after being in the 20 years of the corporate space and the CFO, COO capacity, we had marketing teams, but we didn't have like a chief market, we didn't have a CMO. How do they know when it's time to do a refresh? And what does that look like in Q4 for the following year?
A lot of times it could be that your customers or your clients are actually telling you in a way that they are not really responding to things on your website. They're not really interacting with your social media. They're not engaging at all. As well as, I think it needs to be reevaluated, like maybe every 6 months or so, trying to see, are you reaching that client that you're trying to bring in? And you'll know because you're not getting those specific clients. I just really feel like it needs to be like a process of research, like every 6 months to a year, let's say a year, to make sure, first of all, your KPIs, you're meeting your quotas, you're meeting the things that you have put in place. Are you getting those customers? Are they buying what you want them to buy? Like, are you doing campaigns? Are they actually engaging and purchasing the things that you put out there during the time or whatever?
Yeah, I think that's interesting because for me, I know, like I just said, in the corporate space, I never even had all the 20 years. And I don't know if your corporate position has now a brand person on staff, right? You just typically have some type of marketing role, which makes sense of why I often just put them all together. It wasn't until moving into the entrepreneur space that it's separated into 2 different things. So that's why I wanted to spend the time today actually focusing on you as an executive brand artisan to know, because I feel like your ideal corporate client needs you and they don't even know they need you, right? Because they think you got a marketing person.
Yes.
So I don't need I don't need a branding person. So how would you work with their marketing person, or how would that service them?
So I would come in as an advisor, like looking over the brand to see if there's inconsistencies, because sometimes it may be that you started, you had a logo, but have you put it on all your platforms? Is the branding colors, are they all consistent? Those type of things, looking at that, checking to see if it's outdated.
Yeah.
Like some companies, they may have created their brand back in the 90s. the early 2000s and trends have come in and or it may not have been the right brand originally. Like you said, you chose colors and you just started working with it.
Mhm.
Companies, organizations, they can have the same thing. It could become outdated and not really represent who they are as a company. And that could be colors, that could be fonts. Some things start to look old school. So we have to look at that, as well as, are they differentiating themselves in the market? Are they really standing out? And are they getting the customers and the clients that they actually are looking for? So those type of things, amongst other things, I would really be looking at. But those are the big three.
Yeah, no, that sounds really, really good because I think people don't go to when you're not getting a client, the first thing you go to is not typically is my branding off.
No.
Yeah, for me it's probably like how are we marketing? Maybe we're not marketing in the right place or something like that.
Yeah, and you don't know who the client is really,
Right.
what their
That's
needs are, right? Their
it.
needs, you're not answering how you're the solution because you don't have the right messaging that
Hmm.
will make you the company that they want to work with.
Yeah, no, and that to that point, it's I think for me, I can go to those things and say, okay, yeah, it might be these things. But it wasn't until this year when I did a rebrand and I actually figured out there's actually meaning and feelings behind certain colors and
Yeah.
aesthetics together and fonts together and all of that. And
Talking
when
my language. I love it. I'm
yeah,
like I geek out about it.
it's so cool because I didn't realize it. And when the guy who I work with, like, and he's the same person that did my logo the last time, but I was just like, just make something. I like these three colors. That's it.
Yes.
This time when I went back to him, he could tell that I had coaching because I was able to give him a definition of who
That
my
is
client was. Right.
right. Hmm.
So he was able to take that, and then he knows me personally. So he knew like my personality and the types of people I jive well with, and in communicating with him, like what I want my brand values to be, like what words that I want the colors to feel. And
Right.
I honestly didn't think, because at this point, I didn't want to give him I don't want to really give him colors because I did that before, right? I just kind of
Right.
wanted to see what he came up with when I gave him words.
Hmm.
But I did tell him I wanted it to be not too feminine, but not too masculine either, just kind of in the middle, which is
Hmm.
a whole different conversation because I gravitate and definitely all my clients are women.
Yes.
Um,
And the colors that he chose, really work with that client, right? And it also
yeah.
makes you stand out because when I see yours, uh, I'm sure you look way different than any other CFO, right? That's out there. Hey, Doug, how are you? So that's what's important, making you stand out, as well as answer the question of how you can really help this client, that you have this solution. And
Yeah.
that goes for the small business owner as well as larger organizations. You still have to know where they come in your customer journey and how you're going to move them through. It's all about the user experience, and that, and the systems that you put in to help them. That all becomes part of your branding. The photography that you did with Alicia,
Yeah.
that is part of your branding. It's going to make you stand out, where if somebody else may just have a headshot on their website, and they're going to look static, and don't look welcoming. They're just going to look like they got a stick
Hmm. And
up
that's
their butt.
why it's so. You're right, though. You're right. Or to our corporate client, it's that old suit and tie
Yeah.
and the plain background. It's like no personality behind it. And I feel like
Yeah.
depending on the industry, it's important that if you are going to do the corporate headshots, that your colors speak to the client in that way. It's nothing wrong with if your image is all headshots, everybody, the photographer had to come into the office because everybody had to have that same background. It's
Yeah.
okay.
That's
But
okay.
you have to pop in some areas, speak to if your client is not one of you, if your client is someone that's in a different I guess character trait or You have to speak directly to them. And to your point of the photography with Alicia and I did this year and the rebrand, it's amazing because before I actually just told my girlfriend this last week. She called me and she was like, I've been seeing, we had been talking about my stuff on social media because everybody's like, since you did this rebrand, every time I get on social media, you're on my page. I was like, yes,
that's exactly what we want. Yes,
exactly. But it created a buzz, not even me showing up all the time. I mean, of course, that helped it, but the colors, the new photography, like that alone created a conversational buzz with people that they saw the difference like instantly.
Immediately.
It did. And to the point of what I want the corporate space to understand is the level of clients that come to me now are even different. And the only thing that initially changed, the fastest change, was the brand colors and the photography.
Yes.
Because I'm still working. I mean, my messaging changed, but that's a work in progress for me.
Yes.
So I just want the corporate space to understand that in investing in a rebrand, a refresh, or if you need a rebrand completely, is an area that you should deeply consider if you're in that beginning space that you were talking about at the beginning of they're not getting the same level of clients or the same traction or all of that, because I don't think that's an area that they typically gravitate towards.
And I've worked on many campaigns where we did photography, and a lot of times corporate doesn't understand that imagery still needs to resonate with the client or the customer that they're going for. You still need to show them in the pictures, whether it's good stock photos. Don't get bad stock photos. The ones that's like, don't do that. Don't do that.
Hands in the middle that everybody, I had that on my website.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Have your own professional photography shoots created. I live here in Michigan, and I worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan as their website designer developer. And I had the experience to work on the photography shoot for this using the photographer from Pure Michigan. We actually put together scenes to show our avatars, our personas. We had Bob, Lisa, and Mike. So those three personas were throughout the whole website. So we created scenes of families because that's what Blue Cross Blue Shield works with, is families, as well as other avatars, the older person, Medicare, those type of things. So organizations need to do that.
Yeah.
Whenever they are doing anything with their websites or their social media channels.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good place to actually pause, because I don't want to give too much information overload, but I want people to understand as they plan in Q4 that one of the things that they may not have thought of is the brand space. And y'all have watched me talk over time and time again about budgeting, but as important as it is to budget, you need to know what areas you need to budget in, which is important of why you need to do a discovery and brainstorm where you want to be in the next year two. And when that becomes marketing, figuring out that space and your branding space, because things change. Yes. And I can understand the 6-month thing because things change, right?
Things change. You have different offers.
Yeah.
So that could mean that you have different products, as well as you may even have a different client. You may be pivoting. So those type of things will change your brand.
Yeah. Yep. So I think, were there any other points or things you wanted to mention before we wrap?
No, I think we've covered it. I think this was really good. Thank you for inviting me on your channel.
No, thanks for inviting me on yours. I'm so glad we did this, because I think it's important for people to understand how collaboration is important in your business, not just in the entrepreneurial space, but also in the C-suite, in corporate, understanding the importance of getting a fresh set of eyes from the outside to give you that consulting that can look at your business from a judgment-free approach. And we're not tied in equity or to any of the employees on any of the decisions we make as it pertains to either their financial side or their branding. So,
Right. Yeah, we're just here to be advisors,
yeah.
really letting you guys know it's time to update. You have to update on a regular basis. Your brand, your website are living things. They have to constantly change in order to stay in front of the audience that you want to speak to.
Awesome. Well, this was so great. Thanks again, Lisa. If you guys have questions, Lisa's information is in the comments or in the description box. You can reach out to her on Facebook.
Yeah.
And you can
Email.
also DM. Yeah. And you can DM as well. Was there any links you want me to post here or is going to you on Facebook?
Yeah, going to me on Facebook, DMing me. I think that would be helpful. Then I'll understand exactly what you need, and then I can show you which product I have in order to help you with it.
Awesome. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.